And Halifax had an incident where they were not happy with their performance. They thought that that they thought that the Wanderers should have been doing better. They thought that the team has really kind of given up. And so they put a banner up there just to sort of, and nothing foul, nothing really aggressive, but just sort of saying that they're displeased. They think they've given up, and immediately it was taken down. And they kind of just came out and said a bunch of bullshit and just said like, well, we're going to work with them. We don't think that's kind of the support. In all fairness, Montreal clamping down on their ultras kind of makes sense. Things were getting a bit rowdy, but Halifax resolve, it makes me really worried for what happens when real ultra groups start forming and really getting a bit crazy. Like, what is the response going to be?
So if you ask me, Halifax fucked up, man. They fucked up. The minute you tell the fans they cannot do or say certain things, you're losing them. And as a fan, you pay season tickets, you pay merchandise, you buy whatever the fuck you have that goes to that team's pockets, and you tell them you can't put a sign up to show you how displeased you are. They fucked up. They did fuck up, and I believe one of the problems was they weren't. The person who did it wasn't actually part of the supporters group because he did it away from the section. Am I wrong? Are you guys able to correct that?
No, I think that person was in the supporters group, but I think he wanted it from the main stand because I don't think he wanted it to be associated with the supporters group. So it seemed like he wanted it his own individual statement. In terms of the sign, like, yeah, I personally, for me, I disagreed with what the sign said at that moment, but he has every right to, or that individual, that he has every right to put that sign up if he's displeased with the ownership and the club as well, because they are a season ticket holder. They are supporting the club with their own money and fee. And of course the club went a terrible direction with the security and the whole instance, and I'm glad they did an apology letter afterwards. And I think especially with a young league and a young club like this, it is important to be in good terms with your supporters group, because they are giving you quite a bit of revenue with their support. And
continue.
And I think that it's a step to learn moving forward. And I think right now, I think the fan does personally owe apology for that.
Yeah, I would agree. And I was actually okay with the announcement that Halifax made over the whole thing. They made a press release over it, and I was okay with what they said. But Andre, you said something about it, eh? You thought that was kind of an scapegoat. You thought that was kind of weak on their end.
Yeah, I genuinely don't think that was okay for the club to do, simply because the message wasn't vulgar. It wasn't racially toned. There are so many other things that could come up. It was simply just saying that they're dissatisfied. Now, being in supporters clubs and stuff like that, it could very much be from the group, but the banner's not going to get the appeal if it's not in the main stands. Like, that's the whole idea. The reason why the Toronto FC Ultras go quiet is it's a scenario where it's visual, it's audible, it's something that makes a statement. People can see it, and then they start questioning, because there could be more to it than just how their team's performing. We don't know. There could be things behind the scenes. They could be limiting supporter things. They could be limiting, what they can bring in, what they can do, where they can go. There could be other things behind the scenes, and it's happened. It's happened a lot, and we don't know for sure. But as one pointed out, it's kind of the lifeblood, because when things go south and your team really does start to tank, we are fair weather. We're a fair weather country. Like, we are bandwagoners 100%. When our team is great, we sell out everything. Hence why the Blue Jays sell out when they're winning, because it's baseball and it's boring as fuck. It's it's a hobby, not a sport. And my problem is that as soon as we do well, tickets are like $400. Can't find them. Stadium's full. But when they're doing terribly, never find them. So those supporters are your core. They bring other people in. They spend money. They buy tickets every year. They buy the jerseys. They spend money at the stadium. And for something like that to be very quickly taken down, and maybe not just say, hey, can you move it to your section? Can you do it? And for them to come out and just say, like, we're going to work with them. Their press release sort of sounded like they had made this egregious error or this horrible error when they were just simply saying we're not happy. And remember, we don't know if it's only based on performance.
Now, you said like they could have asked them to move it. I disagree with that as well, because if you go and say you can't have signs or whatever at that certain park, it's not like he was obstructing view, right? So it was over the edge. So if you're going to say you can't have that there, to me that's saying, because I could be a soccer fan, but I don't want to sit with the supporters. They're maybe too loud. They're maybe too. I don't want to stand for the whole 90 minutes. What if I'm disabled? What if I'm an older person? Can I not have my opinion? Can I not show my opinion? So I don't agree with you there that he could have moved it, because a fan is a fan. They pay the money. They show up. They have a right to say what they want to say, and that's the country we live in. You have that right. So I was okay with Halifax ownership saying, look, we did fuck up, because they should have never asked them to move it. But then they said, we're going to have monthly meetings with the supporter groups. That's great. They need that connection. They need that communication. That's what's going to make everything thrive together, especially with Halifax looking to bring in more fans. They want a 10,000 seat stadium. If you have 10,000 pissed off fans but you need them in the stadium, you need them in that stadium so you don't piss them off if they're already pissed off.
Yeah, and I think that currently right now, there's a misconception with supporters groups and hooligans, right?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
when you look at supporters groups, we tend to think we're there for the team, right? And we're not there to cause trouble. But when you look at a security's point of view, they're thinking maybe like if one thing leads to another, it might cause issues later on if we allow some certain things to happen. And certainly, since we're a young league as well, they may be looking over at Europe, where it's more of a historical and cultural aspect to it. And there's years of history in terms of the supporters groups. And sometimes, like, those bad bloods can really create a bad environment. And I don't know if the security guards keep that in mind while they're here. And it seems totally different. I've never been to Europe, but I've seen a lot of videos where one thing can cause another. One rowdy fan can really ruin a whole group of people. And I don't know if security is definitely overthinking that, and they don't want to have that kind of situation. But I think that I don't think they have that conception of supporters group in Canada yet.
It's a scenario where we don't, like I said, remember when you're taking something down, like when I say move it, I just mean like maybe there's a designated spot for these signs and they could put it there and no big deal, right? In the supporter section. Happens in Toronto. You bring a big sign like that somewhere else, they're like, no, that's not the spot. It's got to go over there. It's just a scenario of like, adjusting. But the reason why I'm saying there's other things we don't know is they might have asked them to take it down, but I bet you any money it wasn't, oh, sir, could you please kindly take this down? That would be fantastic. Thank you so much. It was probably aggressive. It was probably harassing. It was probably, we've all dealt with security before in some form or another. Yeah. And there's 100% more to it that we don't exactly know. And I wouldn't mind getting the story from the supporters, because for them to come out and make a statement like that, I'm feeling like there's something they're trying to cover up, like maybe security overreacted. And now they're trying to be like, we're working with them to make this work. Maybe, guaranteed. It's got to be something.
Was this confirmed? Like, this was a security guard's choice to do this, or was he told to, hey, go get that sign? Like, was this his own decision, or was he told to go take it down?
It could have been a zero. I personally don't know. I don't know if Juan knows either, but it could have just been a scenario of there's a zero tolerance policy, so they took a zero tolerance approach.
Maybe,
yeah. So I saw the tweets originally from that individual, and it seemed like that person already spoke to security, showing them the banner, saying that's okay. And then I think the club asked them, security, to remove that during the game.
So it was a club thing, yeah.
Yeah, and then after the game, the supporters group saw the sign, and then that's when they switched over to the supporters group, and that's when security had issues. And I seen some videos on social media with them, like really like being physical with some of the fans, like some of them were like grabbing them by the neck, some of them were dragged down the stairs. It was a really ugly scene.
So it was the ownership and I guess the security guards in both scenarios that just fucked up that day.
Yeah. And that right there is that's unforgivable, because then that makes an unsafe atmosphere. and it creates hostilities. Like, you don't want to be hostile towards your own club. But unfortunately, it is what it is. We'll see how time goes on, and I'm sure we'll get a bit more info so we can kind of touch on it later.
Thank you so much for watching us on the FC13 Podcast channel. Make sure to follow us on Spotify or where other service can give you your podcast needs. Make sure to watch our last video and subscribe so you can follow us while we bring you more Canadian soccer content.